My name is Nina, and I would have laughed if you had told me that my life would become a chaotic drama. I'm a 35-year-old journalist who doesn't just sit around. I'm always moving, seeking news and creating headlines. Sophie is a daughter of mine, 8 years old and already in charge of our tiny flat in the city. She is the joy of my life. Before 2 years ago, life was going along as usual. I worked on an article on the new recycling program the city is implementing. Sounds uninteresting, doesn't it? However, Lucas and I later met. He was the mayor's right-hand guy, and he exuded a certain something, I must say. Perceptive, agile, and capable of carrying on a meaningful conversation. I'm 12 years old, but who's really counting? We clicked immediately away. After the interview sessions, it began with informal conversations. He would tell her, "You're doing great work. This city needs more journalists like you." Maybe flattery, but it was effective. I didn't spend time with Lucas. After 1 year of dating, we were married. Lee is his daughter as well. She's 20 and away at college in a different city. We're not close, in my opinion. She seems aloof, especially in Sophie's presence. I recall their initial meeting. I tried to seem positive as I said, "Hello, Lee, this is Sophie." Lee gave her a cold but not hostile gaze. She said, "Hi," then looked aside, engrossed on her phone. Sophie pulled on my blouse. "Mom, does she not like me?" I gave her hair a back comb. "Honey, don't worry about it. She's simply unique." But Lucas saved my life, my role. The hours are insane. He began preparing Sophie's lunch and went to get her up from school. He appeared to like Sophie, and he was good at it. "Mom, Lucas is funny," she would remark. "He makes the best sandwiches." Our residence, it's comfortable. It's a little house with 2 bedrooms, a dated living room, and a kitchen, but it's home. Sophie's room is a riot of pink, with posters of obscure pop singers all over it. Lucas also moved in some of his belongings, mostly books and an old record or 2. It's okay that he enjoys jazz, but it's not my style. Saying, "Nina, you should try listening to this," he would play an old album. It's classic. I would grin and follow along. Sure, I'll give it a shot. But just between us, I never did. The 3 of us became used to this routine. It was pleasant, standard. That is, I believed. Normal is just what you're accustomed to, though, as they say, until it's not. It wasn't like I woke up one day and everything was different. Things just started to change. Like a faucet leaking till the sink is full. It was sluggish. Sophie has always been such an energetic person, don't you think? She was often jiggling, running about, and had mischievous looks in her eyes. Then again, it was as if someone had dimmed her light. She started to become more reserved, as if she were treading carefully. She was just laying there, looking at the ceiling, while I was putting her into bed one night. In an attempt to get her to giggle, I combed her hair. "Hey, Space Cadet, you planning a trip to the moon?" Without even smiling, she only said, "No, Mom." That served as my cue. "And what's going on? You're not who you usually are." She looked away from me as she turned her head. "I'm okay." I took a seat next her. "Are you certain? You haven't been speaking much recently." She gave a shrug. "Just tired, I guess. Experiencing fatigue at 8. Even though I didn't buy it, I didn't object. Refused to press her. "All right, child, if you so indicate. However, you are aware that you can tell me anything, right?" She gave a nod, but something didn't seem right. I gave her a forehead kiss before turning out the light. "Good night, love." "Night, Mom," she said as I shut the door. Lucas was in the kitchen, so I headed there. He was going about his normal business, turning pages of documents, most likely work-related. "Hi," I murmured. "You notice anything off with Sophie lately?" He didn't raise his gaze. "All right. Similar to what?" As if she isn't who she is. A bit more subdued and quiet. He gave me a shrug without turning to face me. "Nina, kids have moods. She's probably all right." Yeah, maybe. Though I wasn't persuaded, what else could I say? It remained like way for a few days. Sophie was a shadow, hardly noticeable but always present. That made me wonder, perhaps something at school? I chose to question her about it. I waited until we were cleaning up after dinner, which was a nice moment. Hi, Em. Is everything at school all right? She ignored me as she stacked plates. Yeah, it's okay. Are you certain? You're not being bothered by anyone at all. After a moment, she shook her head. No, everyone's nice. Moms know, right? I wanted to trust her though. When something is off, you just have a gut feeling about it. I didn't want to press her, so I let it go for the time being. We had been washing laundry that weekend. Sophie was assisting me with the laundry. I saw a bruise on her arm at that point, and not a little one. I made an effort to speak steadily. What's that on your arm? She quickly rolled up her sleeve. Oh, I fell at the playground. You stumbled. That appears awful, my love. She averted her gaze from me. It's nothing, really. She had a worried expression on her face, which made me want to investigate further. What are you afraid of? It eluded me to solve. All right, if you so desire. But please use caution. Yeah, Mom. I gave her a brief glance. She resumed folding as if nothing had occurred, but I couldn't get rid of the uneasy sensation I had. And I had to ascertain what. It was biting into me like an embedded splinter. I couldn't ignore the fact that Sophie didn't seem right. Her stillness and that injury weren't typical of her. I knew I had to solve it, but I wasn't sure where to begin. Suddenly it dawned on me, why not make use of one of those smartwatches? The ones with the ability to record? I might perhaps get it if it was something that was going on at school. I received the stylish tiny watch. Informed Sophie that it was a birthday gift early. Observe this, Em. If you ever need it, you may give me a call with it, I replied, attempting to seem positive. She gave it a curious glance before grinning. Mom, thank you. It's awesome. I demonstrated its operation to her, but I kept the recording feature a secret. It seemed a little sly, but I had to find out. I was restless for the following few days, waiting for anything. I finally took the watch to look at the recordings after she was in bed. I was listening with my pulse pounding. It was all child stuff at first. The sounds of typical schooling, her talking to pals and background teachers. However, I heard something that instantly chilled me to the bone. Though not the Lucas I knew, it was still his voice. He was furious, extremely furious. You really think you can just goof around? Sophie, you're such an idiot. It seemed unbelievable to me. This was not the Lucas cracking jokes and preparing sandwiches. My hands trembled while I paid attention. A sound resembling a smack was heard, followed by Sophie sobbing. Please give up. I swear not to do it again. I was feeling ill. My Lucas striking my little daughter. I was forced to end the recording. My thoughts were racing. It was clearly captured on tape, yet it couldn't be occurring. It was a restless night for me. I sat there trying to figure things out, pondering. I got Sophie ready for school in the morning and pretended like nothing was out of the ordinary. I made a sick call to work as soon as she was gone. It was up to me to solve this. Lucas was beaming as usual when he arrived home that evening. After putting his coat away, he said, "Hey, how was your day?" Despite my inner panic, I maintained my composure. Oh, the typical, you know. Sophie has an upcoming school assignment. She seems quite happy. All he did was nod. That's excellent. Children require something to occupy them. I wanted to yell at him and ask him why he'd done it, but I was unable to do so. Not quite yet. I had to make sure. I required further evidence. I watched Sophie and Lucas very carefully over the following 3 days. Even while everything appeared regular, I knew it wasn't. I continued to look at the watch, but nothing compared to earlier. But one was enough. It was too much even once. I was thinking about that recording in a stupor. I couldn't stop hearing Sophie's sobs and Lucas's words. I had to take action, but what? I couldn't simply approach Lucas. Not without a strategy. And Sophie, I had to hear her side of the story. I took Sophie to a seat that night. Her toys and artwork surrounded us in her room. Trying to sound calm, I said, honey, we need to talk about something important." With wide eyes, she raised her head. "Is everything okay, Mom?" I inhaled deeply. "Lucas is the subject. Has he ever caused you harm?" Her gaze strayed. She fumbled with her shirt's hem. "What do you mean? Please be honest with me, Sophie. Has Lucas ever struck you?" A protracted silence ensued. She nodded slowly after that, tears welling up in her eyes. She muttered, "Yes. Why didn't you tell me, baby?" He advised against it. "You would be upset with me," he said. Now she was weeping. I drew her up into my embrace. "Oh, I'm very sorry, Em. Okay, so this isn't your fault. Nothing went wrong with you." For some time, we just held each other while we sat there. My thoughts were racing. I had to keep her safe and remove her from Lucas's grasp. Next day, I devised a strategy. I would gather additional proof, something substantial. I would then go to the police. But I had to protect Sophie first. I gave my mother a call. "Mom, I have a request. Is Sophie able to spend a few days at your house? At work, I have a significant project. Obviously, my darling. Is everything in order?" "Yes, I'm simply busy. Regards, Mom." One issue was resolved there. The difficult part was about to begin, compiling evidence against Lucas. I had to attempt even though I had no idea how to accomplish it. I began by speaking with Lucas's daughter Leah. She could have some information or be able to assist. With my pulse racing, I called her. "It's Nina, Leah. We must speak. It concerns your father." The phone remained silent. Afterward, "What about him?" "I believe Sophie has been harmed by him. I need more, but I have a recording. Has he ever harmed you before?" One more extended period of quiet. And a silent yes. As if a floodgate had opened. Leah confided in me completely, telling me how Lucas had mistreated her and how afraid she was of him. I was astounded that I hadn't seen it before. Acquiring further proof against Lucas was not going to be simple. I was aware of that. The man was cunning and constantly on watch. He was unaware, though, that I was spying on him. I refused to allow him to escape punishment for injuring my daughter. First things first, I had to maintain my composure with him. I had to pretend everything was normal. I remarked, keeping my voice light, "Morning, Lucas," over breakfast. With his nose buried in his newspaper, he returned a groan. Without barely glancing up, he asked, "You got plans today?" Typical work-related tasks, I answered while rearranging my coffee. "You meeting with the mayor? You know how it is." Yes, I was aware of the meetings and smoozing that were taking place. Lucas's game was that, but I was only getting started. I delivered Sophie to my mother's house. Making an effort to appear upbeat, I informed her, "You'll be fine here, sweetheart. Grandma's got that new puzzle for you." Sophie gave a little smile. She gave me a strong embrace and added, "I like puzzles." "Yes, darling, me too." "Me too." I kissed her forehead and mumbled. It was time to head to work when I was certain Sophie was safe. I gave Leah a call. "We must get together. It's time to organize a plan." She consented to meet in a downtown cafe. It was a peaceful location where one could converse without worrying about being heard. Leah appeared nervous when I arrived. Her voice was low as she questioned, "So, what's the plan?" "We must take a video of him. Get him to confess what he did to Sophie and you on camera. It's the sole path." Leah bit her lip and nodded. I might give it a go with him. Possibly elicit a statement from him. We had no choice but to take the risk. "Leah, use caution. He is unaware that we are following him." "I'm aware. I'll exercise caution." We went over every aspect for the next hour, including when to press and when to back off. It resembled laying a trap, and we needed to be flawless. The days that followed were a haze. I avoided being alone with Lucas by keeping a distance from him and making up reasons to remain late at work. Leah fulfilled her obligation. She made up a tale about needing to chat and contacted Lucas. She stated over the phone, "Dad, I've been thinking about when I was a kid." Her voice was audible to me, steady yet tight. There are things we never really talked about. Lucas got the bait. We are able to speak. Yes, come have supper with us. And that was all. Leah was going in with a hooked recorder. I was waiting for her call the entire evening, with my heart in my throat. That evening, it arrived late. "Nina, I understand." I managed to get him to speak. I was both relieved and terrified. "Well done, Leah. Move it over. We must pay attention to it and ensure we have all we require." She approached, seeming as though she had just finished 10 rounds in the ring. We listened to the recording while seated at my kitchen table. Lucas's voice filled the room, then grew more agitated. "You always were a difficult child, Leah, always asking for it." While I listened to him, my blood boiled. And then, as plain as day, he stated it. "I took the necessary action towards Sophie and you. It was necessary for both of you to learn. It was that. The admission. I had a wave of victory at the same moment that I felt sick to my stomach. He was with us. I said in a stern voice, "We take this to the police first thing tomorrow." Leah nodded, appearing worn out yet resolute. "Yeah, it's time he paid for what he's done." The night was really lengthy. We didn't get much sleep, but we had everything we needed. I was going to make sure that Lucas went down. Not even the crack of dawn had awakened me, yet my mind was already racing. I was going to face Lucas today. His confession was included on a little recorder that was sitting on my kitchen table. As I considered what I needed to do, my hands began to shake. Now I was unable to back down. I heard Lucas getting ready, his shoes hitting the wooden floor, the typical bustle in the bathroom. As soon as he entered the kitchen, I prepared myself. He said, "Morning, Nina," and reached for his coffee. He sounded so everyday, like it was no different. I inhaled deeply. "We need to talk, Lucas." He arched an eyebrow while wearing a little smile. "About what?" "Concerning your actions towards Sophie." To Leah. At that moment, the sneer vanished from his face. "What are you talking about?" I became quite angry. "Lucas, I am fully informed. It's finished. Sophie was harmed by you. I know. You harmed your own daughter. I know that." He let out a loud, frigid chuckle. "You believe that will endure? You think anyone will give you more credit than I have?" My hands were balled into fists as I stood up. "They will when they hear this." As soon as I pressed record, his voice echoed throughout the space, freely confessing to his actions. Lucas got pale in the face. I grabbed the recorder from him as soon as he reached for it. "You cannot get away from this, sorry. Not any longer." With his chair slapping the floor, he stood up. "You're going to ruin everything. My career, my life. When you injured those females, you did that yourself. Lucas, it's over." He appeared helpless and trapped. "Nothing can be proven by you. Your word is in opposition to mine." I shook my head, letting out a sour laugh. "No, your word is in conflict with yours. You admitted it, Lucas. Everything is at this place." He was silent and simply looked at me, a defeated expression on his face. With a calm voice, I declared, "I'm going to the police. I'm also bringing this with me. You will bear the consequences of your actions." As I moved out of the kitchen past him, he remained silent. I didn't turn around. I wasn't required to. Everything I required was here. My heart was thumping like a drum when I entered the police station. I never imagined myself in this kind of predicament. Yet here I was, prepared to give in to the man I thought I loved. As I walked up, the officer behind the desk glanced up. "Can I help you, ma'am?" I inhaled deeply. "Yes, I do have to report a domestic abuse incident. I can provide proof." I clutched the recorder like a lifeline, even though my voice was trembling. His gaze became stern as he turned to face me. "All right, let's go to an interview room, and you can tell me everything." The following several hours passed in a haze of statements and queries. As Lucas's voice filled the room, I played them the audio and observed how their expressions changed. It was as though I was witnessing the disintegration of another person's life. I felt relieved as well as empty and worn out when I eventually left the police station. There was no going back now that the truth had been revealed. I gave Leah a call. "It is finished." I handed the tape to them. A moment of silence, followed by the stern yet emotive voice of Leah. "I'm grateful for everything, Nina. Together, we are in this." I tried to seem more certain than I actually was and replied, "The next few weeks were a whirlwind." After Lucas was taken into custody, the bombshell accusations made against the mayor's aide made headlines. Despite my life being turned upside down, I knew I had made the correct decision. The court case was difficult. Although Lucas was represented by an experienced attorney who was skilled in wordplay and technicalities, we had the truth on our side. Leah spoke, telling the court about her father's abuse, her voice cracking as she spoke. As the jury listened to her narrative, I could see their horrified and sympathetic expressions. Next, it was my time. The prosecution said, "Miss Stevens, can you tell the court about the recording you made?" I took a big breath and nodded. Mr. Johnson confessed to molesting both his own daughter and mine on tape. My goal was to reveal the truth and shield my child. I resisted Lucas's lawyer's attempts to dissuade me by raising doubts about my intentions and implying that I was seeking retribution. It's not about getting even. It's about holding him accountable for his actions and defending my kid. The day of the verdict eventually arrived, even though it felt like the trial would never end. With my fists clasped in my lap, I waited for the jury to reappear in the courtroom. The foreman declared, "We find defendant Lucas Johnson guilty of child abuse." It felt as though a burden had been removed from me. Lucas received a jail term as well as enormous financial reparations. The judge's remarks were severe. He denounced his conduct and the suffering he had brought about. I experienced a range of feelings as he was carried away, including relief, despair, and rage, but most of all, I felt a sense of closure. The fallout was difficult. In addition to helping Sophie recover from her tragedy, I had to start again in my life. What mattered was that we were no longer under Lucas's shadow. I concentrated on doing my job and being there for Sophie. Both of us began therapy in order to process all that had transpired. Although it wasn't simple, day by day, we were making progress. We relocated to a new home. Although it was smaller than the last one, it was brand new and ours. Sophie rushed through the home on the first day we moved in, looking in every corner. With wide eyes, she exclaimed, "I get to pick my room?" "Naturally, child. Whichever one you choose," I said, as her quickly moved between the rooms. She decided on the one with the large window overlooking the backyard. "I can see the stars from here, Mom." I grinned. "Then it's perfect for you." Although it was a nuisance, unpacking made us feel as though we were rebuilding our lives piece by piece. Together, we made the decision to paint the living room. Sophie got a paintbrush from me. "What do you think? Blue or green?" She painted the brush blue after dipping it, blue like the sky on a sunny day. I said, "So blue it is," and we set to work transforming the space into our own personal sky. We were taking a break from painting one afternoon when there came a tap on the door. Leah was there. With some strange gait, she stood there, hopping from foot to foot. "Hi, Nina. Could I please enter?" Her presence startled yet delighted me. "Of course, come in." In the partially painted living room, we took seats on boxes. Leah remarked, "I wanted to say thank you," as she turned to face her hands, "for everything you did for me and for Sophie." I extended my hand to grab hers. "Leah, we are family. Families operate in this way." Her grin was timid and tiny. "I brought something for Sophie." She gave Sophie a little item that was wrapped. Sophie examined the package. "Is that for me?" Leah gave a nod. "Yeah, I thought you might like it." Sophie ripped the box open. There was a book on planets and stars within. Her expression brightened. "Wow, thank you, Leah." Leah appeared content and relieved. "You're welcome." Even if things were still difficult, times like that made everything worthwhile. We were creating something robust and innovative. After returning to school, Sophie was doing well, finding friends, and being the person she used to be. And me, like I usually did, I returned to work, immersing myself in stories and discovering facts. But now I saw things differently and understood the difficulties that individuals had. Although it wasn't ideal, our life was ours. We had each other, our tiny universe, and a secure shelter. That was more than sufficient. It was a fresh start, an opportunity to grow, heal, and love. We were prepared for it too, all set for whatever was ahead of us. All of us together were unstoppable.
Hi, I'm Sally, a high school teacher with a deep passion for guiding young minds. Life as a teacher is challenging but fulfilling. My days are spent juggling lesson plans, student queries, and the never-ending stack of papers to grade. When I'm not at school, I'm at home with my husband, Alex, making the most of our time together. We've been married for 3 years, and while married life has its ups and downs, one recurring challenge we face is dealing with his mother, Linda. From the moment Alex introduced me as his girlfriend, Linda has been a tough nut to crack. Her cold glances and tight-lipped smiles were my first hints, and over the years, her disapproval has only grown. It has morphed into subtle digs and backhanded compliments, especially during family gatherings where we're often together longer than I'd like. Today was one of those days, family dinner at Linda's, an event she insists on hosting once a month. The moment Alex and I stepped through her front door, the air was heavy with expectation. "Ah, Sally, that dress is interesting," Linda greeted me. The living room buzzed with the chatter of Alex's relatives, the atmosphere teetering between warm and cautiously tense, much like the relationship between Linda and me. As dinner approached, everyone settled around the large dining table, the clinking of cutlery punctuating the hum of conversation. When the dinner plates were placed on the polished wood, I felt every gaze in the room drift toward me. Linda set a distinct plate in front of me, a piece of fish with an unsettling smell. Beside me, Alex received a steaming portion of chicken, a stark contrast to mine. Hesitantly, I leaned closer to the fish, the odor growing stronger. "Linda, is there any chance I could switch to the chicken? This fish smells a bit off to me." "Sally, I made that fish especially for you, knowing you prefer lighter meals." "It's perfectly fresh," Linda replied, her tone sharp. Trying to keep the situation light, I chuckled nervously. "I really appreciate the thought, Linda, but I think it might have turned. Maybe there's some chicken left." Alex, sensing the tension, finally spoke up. "Mom, maybe Sally can just have some of my chicken." Linda shook her head, dismissing Alex with a wave of her hand. "No, she needs to eat what's been served to her." "Sally, you're being incredibly rude and ungrateful. Just eat the fish." Murmurs filled the room as relatives exchanged glances. Uncle Joe, seated across from me, tried to mediate with a forced smile. "Sally, maybe it's not as bad as you think. Just a small bite, huh?" Feeling the weight of the room's expectations, I picked up my fork and sliced a small piece of the fish. The texture felt wrong, and my heart raced as I brought it to my lips. "See everyone, she's doing the right thing," Linda commented, a sharp edge to her voice. I placed the fish in my mouth, and the taste was as bad as the smell. My face contorted involuntarily, and I struggled to swallow. Under the table, Alex reached out, placing his hand over mine, his concern palpable. Immediately, I felt my stomach churn. Excusing myself, I stood up abruptly, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I'm sorry, I need to step out for a moment." In the bathroom, the small bite I had taken rebelled, and I was violently sick. The sounds of my distress echoed faintly, a stark contrast to the muffled conversations outside. When I returned, pale and shaken, the room split into two. Aunt Mary, a kind soul, looked at me with sympathy. "Are you okay, dear? You look pale." But Linda's voice cut through any murmur of concern. Dramatic as always, Sally always has to make a scene. Alex stood then, his face set in a hard line. "Enough, Mom. We're leaving." The drive home was silent at first, but it was clear things had to change. This wasn't just about a dinner. It was about respect. And tonight had shown us exactly where we stood, The tension was thick as Alex gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary. I sat beside him, my body still recovering from the ordeal, feeling every bump in the road more acutely than usual. Finally, I couldn't bear the quiet any longer. "Alex, we need to talk about what happened back there." Alex kept his eyes on the road, his voice low. "I know, Sally. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. I don't understand how your mom could think it was okay to do that to someone, let alone to me and in front of everyone." My voice cracked a bit, the hurt evident. Alex sighed deeply. "She's always been controlling, Sally. I thought she'd back down tonight if you just tried a bit of the fish. I didn't expect her to push it that far." "That's just it, Alex. It's not just about the fish, it's about respecting me. Us. Every time we let it slide, it gets worse. Where does it end?" He was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. "You're right. I've been too passive. It's hard for me, you know. She's my mom, but you're my wife. I should have supported you right from the start." The rest of the drive passed with us brainstorming how to handle the situation moving forward. As we parked in our driveway, Alex finally broke the contemplative silence. "I'm going to call her tomorrow, Sally. It's time I set some boundaries with her. This can't go on, not if we want to have peace in our lives." I reached over, squeezing his hand. "Thank you, Alex. It means a lot to hear you say that." The next day, I watched as Alex paced back and forth in our living room, phone in hand. He dialed his mother, and though I could only hear his side of the conversation, his tone was firm and resolute. "Mom, we need to talk about last night." "No, it's not okay. You can't treat Sally like that. Yes, she's my wife, and that should be enough for you to respect her." "No, Mom, listen. We're not going to come over if things don't change." When he hung up, Alex looked drained but determined. She wasn't happy, but I think she got the message. We'll see how it goes. That conversation marked a turning point for us. Alex's commitment to standing up to his mother wasn't just about defending me, it was about respecting our partnership. It felt like a new beginning, one where mutual respect and support were non-negotiable. 2 weeks passed since the dinner incident, and we decided it was time to confront Linda directly. Alex and I agreed it was best to do it at her home, where she might feel more at ease, but also understand that we were serious. As we walked up to her doorstep, Alex squeezed my hand, a silent promise of solidarity. Linda greeted us with a cautious smile, perhaps sensing the seriousness in our approach. We sat down in her meticulously kept living room, the air tense as Alex began. "Mom, we need to talk about what's been happening. The way you treated Sally at dinner the other week wasn't right." Linda's eyebrows rose and her tone turned defensive. "I treated Sally just fine. She was the one making a scene over a little fish." I took a deep breath, ready to assert myself. "Linda, it wasn't just about the fish. It's about how you've been treating me since Alex and I got married. I felt disrespected and unwelcome." Linda scoffed, shaking her head. "This is just you being sensitive. I've always been straightforward. If you took offense, that's not my problem." Alex's voice grew firmer, a stark contrast to his usual calm demeanor. "It is your problem when it affects my wife and our marriage. You need to understand, Mom, if this continues, we'll have to limit our visits." The conversation paused as Linda processed this. "You're threatening me in my own house now?" "No, Mom, it's not a threat. It's us trying to make sure our family can be together without constant tension. We want you in our lives, but not at the cost of our peace." Just then, Aunt Marie, who had been quietly listening from the kitchen, stepped in. "Linda, I've noticed how you treat Sally. Maybe it's time to reflect on that. They're right to set boundaries." Linda looked taken aback, her gaze flickering between me, Alex, and her sister. "Well, I just don't see it." Alex continued, "We've decided that future family gatherings will be at neutral places where everyone feels comfortable. We think it's best for everyone." Linda sat back, her features tightening as she absorbed this new reality. After a long moment, she nodded slowly. "If that's what you need." As we left, Aunt Marie followed us out, whispering, "You did the right thing." Things needed to be said. Driving home, the weight of the confrontation still hung over us. But there was a sense of accomplishment too. We had not only stood up for our relationship, but had begun shifting the family dynamics, hopefully for the better. Aunt Marie's unexpected support affirmed that not everyone saw things Linda's way, and that gave us hope. Months rolled by since our confrontation with Linda, and the change in our family dynamics was clear. We were on our way to the first family gathering at a local community center, a neutral ground where Linda had less control and everyone could feel more at ease. As Alex drove, I noticed the ease with which he now spoke about his mother. I never realized how stressed I was about Mom's behavior until we faced it head on. It's like I can breathe easier now. I smiled, looking out the window. I feel the same. It's been a tough journey, but I'm proud of us for how we handled it. At the gathering, the atmosphere was noticeably lighter. Relatives mingled, laughing and chatting without the usual tension in the air. Linda arrived, her demeanor subdued, and for the first time, she greeted me without a hint of disdain. "Sally, I brought some of your favorite cookies," Linda said, a small olive branch that I accepted with a nod and a thank you. As we sat down for dinner, the conversation flowed more freely than it had in years. Alex's cousin Tom leaned over the table, whispering loudly enough for a few heads to turn. "You two really shook things up, huh? It's a nice change." Alex laughed, a genuine sound. "Yeah, it was about time. We all deserve to enjoy these gatherings, right?" Driving home, Alex reached over to squeeze my hand. "Today was good. I think we're moving in the right direction." "I agree," I replied, feeling a sense of accomplishment. "We've come a long way, not just with your mom, but with each other. Standing up for our marriage has made us stronger." Alex nodded, the streetlights flickering over his thoughtful face. "It's not going to be perfect overnight, but it's a start, a good one." As we pulled into our driveway, the feeling of a fresh start was undeniable. We had not only navigated a difficult family conflict, but had come out stronger on the other side. Future gatherings would likely still have their challenges, but with our newfound strength and understanding, we felt ready to face them together, with cautious but real optimism about what lay ahead. That's the end of our story. Now, I have a question for you all. How would you handle a situation where a family member consistently disrespects you in front of others? Would you confront them or choose peace over conflict? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story insightful, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Hey there, I'm Abigail Hawkins, but everyone calls me Abby. I'm 25, fresh out of college with a degree in agricultural science, and I'm eager to put my knowledge to work on our family farm. Hawkins Farm has been in our family for generations, and I've got big plans to bring it into the 21st century. "Dad, look at these soil reports," I said, spreading out papers on the kitchen table. "If we implement crop rotation and sustainable practices, we could boost our yield by 30%. "Dad," Frank Hawkins to everyone else, just grunted, sipping his coffee. "We've been doing things the same way for 50 years, Abby. If it ain't broke, don't fix it." That's Dad for you, stubborn as a mule and just as resistant to change. My sister Megan walked in with her husband, Brad, trailing behind. "You two arguing about the farm again?" she asked, rolling her eyes. "Not arguing," I replied, "just trying to discuss the future." Brad smirked. "Good luck with that. Some of us have real jobs to get to." I bit my tongue. Megan and Brad lived in the city and only visited on holidays. They couldn't care less about the farm, but were always quick to criticize. Later that day, I vented to my best friend Sarah at her organic farm down the road. "I just don't get it, Sarah. Why can't Dad see that we need to adapt?" Sarah nodded sympathetically. "Some people are just set in their ways, abs. But hey, look at what I've done here. Maybe seeing a successful modern farm will change his mind." I sighed, glancing around at Sarah's thriving fields. "Maybe. I just wish he'd give me a chance to prove myself." The next day, at my part-time job at the local ag co-op, I was arranging a display of new organic fertilizers when my boss, Tom, approached me. "Abby, that proposal you submitted for the community garden project is brilliant. Have you thought about implementing some of these ideas on your family's farm?" I laughed bitterly. "Oh, I've thought about it plenty. Getting Dad on board is the real challenge." Tom frowned. "That's a shame. With your knowledge, Hawkins Farm could be leading the charge in sustainable agriculture around here." His words stuck with me as I drove home that evening. The sun was setting over our fields, painting everything gold. This land was in my blood, and I was determined to see it thrive. I found Dad in the barn, tinkering with the old tractor. "Dad, we need to talk about the farm's future." He sighed, putting down his wrench. "Abby, not this again." "Yes, this again, Dad. The world is changing, and if we don't change with it, we'll be left behind." He hesitated. Actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. I'm thinking of retiring soon. My heart leaped. This was my chance. Really, Dad? That's great. I've got so many ideas for. He held up a hand, cutting me off. Now hold your horses. Retirement's a big step. We need to think carefully about who's going to take over. Something in his tone made me pause. What do you mean? I'm the one who's been working the land. Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. We'll discuss it more at the family dinner next week. Just keep an open mind, okay? As he walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong. Little did I know, my whole world was about to be turned upside down. The family dinner started like any other, with Mom's pot roast and Dad's bad jokes. But the tension in the air was thick as the gravy on our plates. So I've got an announcement to make, Dad said, clearing his throat. As you know, I'm planning to retire soon. I sat up straighter, heart pounding. This was it. I've been thinking long and hard about the future of this farm, he continued, and I've decided I'm handing it over to Brad. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? I gasped. Brad's face split into a smug grin. I'm honored, Frank. I'll do my best to live up to the Hawkins name. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Dad, this has to be a joke. I'm the one with a degree in agriculture. I'm the one who's been working this land. Dad shook his head. Abby, running a farm is more than book learning. It takes a firm hand. A man's touch. A man's touch. I repeated, my voice rising. Are you kidding me? This is the 21st century, Dad. Megan piped up. Oh, don't be so dramatic, Abby. It's not like you can't still help out. I rounded on her. Help out? This was supposed to be my future, Megan. Now, Abby, Dad started, his tone patronizing. Let's be realistic. You'll get married someday, have kids. You can't be expected to run a farm on top of that. I saw red. So that's it. My dreams don't matter because I'm a woman. Don't twist my words, Dad snapped. I'm doing what's best for this farm. Best for the farm? I laughed bitterly. Brad doesn't know the first thing about farming. Brad leaned back, smirking. I'm a quick learner. Besides, how hard can it be? I stood up so fast my chair toppled over. This is bull. And you know it, Dad, you're making a huge mistake. Dad's face hardened. My decision is final, Abigail. You can either accept it or what? I challenged. Or you can leave, he said quietly. The room fell silent. Mom looked like she wanted to say something but kept quiet. I looked around at their faces, Dad's stubbornness, Brad's smugness, Megan's indifference. In that moment, I knew I couldn't stay. Fine, I said, my voice shaking. I'm out of here. I stormed upstairs and started throwing clothes into a bag, tears blurring my vision. I refused to let the tears fall. As I was leaving, I overheard Dad and Brad talking in the study. Something about loans and missed payments. I paused, listening more closely. Don't worry about it, Dad was saying. We'll figure something out. Just don't mention this to the women, all right? I felt sick. Not only was Dad handing over my birthright to Brad, but he was hiding financial troubles too. I drove straight to Sarah's place, spilling the whole story between sobs. That sexist old goat, Sarah exclaimed. Abby, I'm so sorry. As my tears dried, a new determination set in. I'm not giving up, I said firmly. I'm going to prove to them that I can run a farm better than any man. Sarah grinned. Now that's the Abby I know. What's the plan? I took a deep breath. First, I need more experience. I'm going to apply for that job at AgriCorp. And then, I'm going to build something that'll make Dad eat his words. As I drove away from Sarah's, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. I'm sorry, honey. Your father means well. I turned off my phone without replying. Sorry wasn't good enough. Not anymore. The next morning, I walked into AgriCorp with my head held high. Hi, I'm Abigail Hawkins, and I'm here to apply for the junior exec position. This was just the beginning. They had no idea what was coming. 6 months into my job at AgriCorp, I was driving past the family farm when I noticed something off. The corn looked stunted, yellowish. I pulled over, frowning. What in the world? I muttered, examining a sickly-looking stalk. Just then, old Mr. Jenkins from the neighboring farm walked up. Abby, haven't seen you in a while. You here to help Brad? Lord knows he needs it. I raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Mr. Jenkins shook his head. That boy's running this place into the ground, using some newfangled pesticides that are killing everything but the weeds. My blood boiled. I thanked Mr. Jenkins and drove straight to Sarah's. We've got to do something, I said. Brad's destroying the farm. Sarah nodded. I've heard rumors. But Abby, what can we do? An idea struck me. We help everyone else make Hawkins Farm the worst in the county by comparison. And that's exactly what we did. Every weekend, I'd visit neighboring farms, offering free consultations. Word spread fast. Did you hear? Abby Hawkins increased the Thompsons' yield by 40%. The Wilsons' organic transition, all thanks to Abby. Meanwhile, Brad was floundering. I kept tabs through the grapevine, each piece of news worse than the last. One day, I overheard two farmhands at the local diner. I'm telling you, it ain't right. Brad's spraying stuff that ain't even legal no more. And the migrant workers, he's paying them peanuts, threatening deportation if they complain. I clenched my fists. This was worse than I thought. I started gathering evidence, photos of illegal pesticides, testimonies from workers, soil samples showing contamination. It was damning stuff. Then came the call from Mom. Abby, it's your father. He's had a heart attack. I rushed to the hospital, my stomach in knots. Dad looked small in the hospital bed, tubes everywhere. The stress, Mom explained tearfully. The farm's in trouble, and he won't let anyone help. I felt a pang of guilt. Had my actions contributed to this? As I left the hospital, lost in thought, I quite literally ran into someone. Oh, I'm so sorry, the woman said, helping me pick up my dropped files. Her eyes widened as she saw the contents. Wait a minute. Is this about Hawkins Farm? I eyed her suspiciously. Who's asking? She stuck out her hand. Alana Vasquez, investigative journalist. I've been looking into agricultural malpractices in the area, and it seems you've got quite the story. We talked for hours at a nearby cafe. Alana was sharp, passionate about exposing corruption in the industry. This is bigger than just your family's farm, Abby, Alana said, her voice steady. It's about workers' rights, environmental protection, and the future of farming in this region. I nodded slowly. I know, but it's still my family. If this gets out, it could ruin them. Alina leaned forward, her eyes serious. Sometimes doing the right thing means making tough choices. The question is, are you willing to make that choice? I stared into my coffee, my mind racing. On one hand, this was my chance to prove myself, to show Dad he was wrong about me. On the other, it could destroy everything our family had built over generations. I need some time to think, I said finally. Alina nodded. Of course, but don't take too long. Stories like this have a way of coming out, with or without us. As I drove home that night, the weight of the decision pressed down on me. What was I willing to sacrifice for justice, for the truth? I pulled over at the edge of our property, looking out over the fields I'd grown up in. The farm was sick, dying under Brad's mismanagement, but it was still home. What would you do, Mom? I whispered, thinking of her quiet strength in the face of Dad's stubbornness. The answer came to me slowly, but with certainty. I knew what I had to do. I pulled out my phone and dialed Elena's number. Hey, it's Abby. I'm in. Let's do this. Elena and I worked tirelessly on our expose. When it hit, it was like a bombshell. Unethical practices rot local farm from the inside dominated the headlines. The story went viral, sparking outrage and investigations. I watched from afar as Brad was led away in handcuffs, charged with multiple violations. Dad stood in the driveway, looking shell-shocked. One day, as I helped the Wilsons replant, Dad's truck pulled up. Abby, can we talk? He asked, his voice weary. I straightened, wiping my hands on my jeans. I'm busy, Dad. He nodded, eyes downcast. I know, I messed up, Abby. I was wrong about everything. Can you forgive me? For a moment, I wavered. Then I remembered the betrayal, the pain. No, Dad, I can't. You didn't just hurt me, you hurt this whole community. Some things can't be undone. He flinched but nodded. I understand. I'm proud of you, Abby, for what it's worth. As he drove away, I felt lighter. I was done seeking his approval. With community support and impressed investors, I started Hawkins' New Generation Farm, focused on sustainable, innovative practices. I had proven myself to the world. The Hawkins legacy lived on, not in Dad's old fields, but in the innovations I shared with the next generation. This was my victory, hard-won and sweet. And forgiveness. Some crops just aren't worth replanting. The story of Abby and her fight against injustice on the family farm has come to an end. Now, here's a question for you. Was Abby justified in exposing her family's unethical practices and refusing to forgive her father? Or should family loyalty come before personal ambition and moral principles? Is there a line where exposing a family's wrongdoing becomes the right thing to do, even if it destroys the family's legacy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective could help others wrestling with family conflicts and ethical dilemmas. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Hey everyone, I'm Sarah, a 25-year-old nurse living with my parents and my older brother, Mark, in our family home. I work hard at the local hospital, pulling long shifts and even helping out with the bills. I thought we were one big happy family. But wow, was I wrong. Sarah, honey, can you grab some groceries on your way home? Mom would always ask. And like the dutiful daughter, I'd reply, sure, no problem. Meanwhile, Mark would stroll in empty-handed. And they'd be all, oh Mark, you must be so tired from your important job. My best friend, Lisa, kept trying to make me see the truth. Sarah, don't you see how they treat you differently? She'd say. But I'd brush it off. Come on, Lisa. They're my family. They love me. Then I met Alex, a super sweet teacher, and we hit it off right away. He started noticing things too. Sarah, I don't want to overstep, but doesn't it seem like your parents favor Mark? He asked one day. I laughed it off, but deep down, it hurt a little. Things got strange when Mark dropped some big news. Emma and I are having a baby, he announced at dinner. You'd think he cured cancer or something. The way Mom and Dad reacted. They went nuts, planning baby showers and talking about cribs. This calls for a celebration. Dad cheered, popping open the fancy champagne they never touched. I tried to be happy for him, but something felt off. Why weren't they this excited when I graduated from nursing school? One night, I overheard Mom and Dad talking in hushed tones. We can't keep this up, Mom whispered. The bills are piling up. I thought, hey, I can help more, so I approached them the next day. Hey, I couldn't help overhearing. I can pitch in more if you need, I offered. Dad waved me off. No, sweetie, everything's fine. Don't worry your pretty little head. But their smiles didn't reach their eyes. I knew something was up. Little did I know, they were planning something that would turn my world upside down. If I'd known then what I know now, I would have packed my bags that very night. So there I was, dragging myself home after a grueling 12-hour shift at the hospital. My feet were aching, and all I wanted was to collapse into bed. But when I got to the front door, my key wouldn't work. I thought I was losing my mind. What the heck? I muttered, jiggling the handle. No luck. I called Mom and Dad, but it went straight to voicemail. Weird, right? They always pick up. I started to freak out a little, so I called Alex. Hey, something's wrong. Can you come over? Alex showed up in record time, and we sat on the porch for hours, waiting for someone to show up. I was getting more anxious by the minute. Maybe they're just out and forgot to tell you they changed the locks, Alex suggested, trying to calm me down. Finally, Mark rolled up in his fancy car, looking smug. Well, if it isn't little sis, he smirked. Mark, what's going on? Why are the locks changed? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He leaned against his car, all smug. Oh, didn't Mom and Dad tell you? They decided to turn your room into a nursery for my baby. Surprise. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. What? No way. Where's all my stuff? Storage unit across town. Don't worry, it's all boxed up nice and neat, he said, like he was doing me a favor. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This has to be a joke, right, Mark? Come on. Just then, Mom and Dad pulled up. I ran to them, hoping for some sanity. Mom, Dad, please tell me this isn't true. Dad looked uncomfortable, but Mom just sighed. Sarah, honey, we thought it was time for you to spread your wings. You're an adult now. Spread my wings. You're kicking me out. Now, Dad chimed in. It's for the greater good of the family. Mark's baby needs a proper nursery. I was stunned. And what about me? Where am I supposed to go? Mom patted my arm. You're a smart girl. You'll figure it out. I looked at Alex, tears streaming down my face. He stepped forward. She can stay with me for now. As we packed up my car with a few things I had on me, I couldn't stop shaking. My own family had just tossed me out like yesterday's trash. I can't believe this is happening, I whispered to Alex as we drove away. He squeezed my hand. We'll figure this out, Sarah. I promise. But as we headed to his place, all I could think was, how could they do this to me, my own family? The people I trusted most in the world had betrayed me in the worst way possible. But let me tell you, this was just the beginning of the storm that was about to hit them. After crashing at Alex's place for a few days, I decided it was time to stop moping and start fighting back. I mean, what they did couldn't be legal, right? I dove into researching tenant rights, hitting the internet hard, and turns out I was onto something. I called up Lisa. Lisa, you won't believe this. What they did is totally illegal. I told you they were shady. What are you going to do? I'm going to need your help. We're going detective mode. Lisa and I started digging deep into my family's finances, and what we found made my blood boil. Holy cow, Sarah, look at this. Lisa gasped, pointing at her laptop screen. They've been using your name to open credit cards. I felt sick. Are you kidding me? How long has this been going on? We traced it back years. They'd been playing me for a fool all this time. I immediately called the lawyer, Mr. Johnson. He didn't sugarcoat it. Miss Sarah, what they've done is highly illegal. You've got a strong case for both illegal eviction and identity theft. I nodded, determined. What do I need to do? Gather every piece of evidence you can, bank statements, credit reports, anything that shows their misuse of your identity. I was on it like white on rice. I collected everything, even recorded some conversations with my so-called family where they basically admitted what they'd done. But I wasn't done yet. I needed to know what they were saying behind my back, so I got creative. Alex, I need your help with something crazy, I said one night. What's the plan? He asked, not even hesitating. We snuck into my old house when everyone was out and set up hidden cameras in my old room. Now the precious nursery. The things I heard, man, it was like a knife to the heart. Good riddance to Sarah, I heard Mark say. Now we can really cash in on those credit cards. Mom laughed. She was always so gullible, never questioned a thing. I was seeing red, but I kept my cool. This was gold for my case. I decided to reach out to my extended family. Aunt Carol was the first call. Aunt Carol, you're not going to believe what's been happening. I spilled everything. She was horrified. Sarah, honey, that's awful. What can we do to help? One by one, I called my relatives. They were all shocked, all supportive. It felt good to know not everyone in my family was rotten to the core. As I gathered more evidence, recorded more conversations, and built my case, I felt stronger every day. They thought they could walk all over me, but they had no idea what was coming. Alex, I said one night, looking at the mountain of evidence we'd collected, I think it's time to drop the hammer. He smiled, squeezing my hand. I'm with you all the way, Sarah. Let's show them what happens when they mess with the wrong nurse. I nodded, a fire burning in my eyes. Revenge was coming, and it was going to be sweet. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was about to go down. The police station loomed before me, a concrete fortress of justice. With my stack of evidence tucked under my arm, I pushed through the doors. I'd like to file a report for identity theft and illegal eviction. I told the officer at the desk, my voice steady despite the nerves churning in my stomach. The cop raised an eyebrow. That's some heavy stuff. You got proof? I nodded, dropping the pile of documents on his desk. Oh, I've got proof, all right. Bank statements, recorded conversations, the whole 9 yards. As the officer flipped through the pages, his eyes widened. Holy, he muttered under his breath. This is your family. Unfortunately, I replied, a bitter taste in my mouth. The next few hours were a blur of questions, statements, and more paperwork than I'd ever seen in my life. But when I walked out of that station, a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. The wheels of justice were finally turning. Days passed in a haze of anticipation, and then, out of the blue, my phone blew up with notifications. It seems the cops had made their move, freezing my parents' and Mark's assets faster than you could say, karma's But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I sent out invites for a family gathering, making it sound all warm and fuzzy. Aunts, uncles, cousins, the whole damn clan was going to be there. And boy, were they in for a surprise. The day arrived, and I watched as they all filtered into the house. Clueless smiles plastered on their faces. My parents and Mark looked particularly smug, probably thinking they'd gotten away with everything. I waited until everyone had settled in before dropping the bomb. So I bet you're all wondering why I called this little shindig. I began, my voice ringing out across the suddenly quiet room. Well, buckle up because it's story time. I hit play on the recorder, and the room filled with the sound of my family's greed and betrayal. Gasps echoed around me as I laid up document after document, exposing every dirty detail of their scheme. You see, I continued, my eyes locked on my parents and Mark. These fine folks decided to steal my identity, rack up a mountain of debt in my name, and then kick me out of my own house. Cool, right? The silence was deafening, and then all hell broke loose. How could you? My aunt shrieked at my mom. I can't believe this, my cousin muttered, shaking his head in disgust. But the best reaction came from Emma, Mark's wife. She stood up, her face a mask of fury and betrayal. You son of a, she spat at Mark. I want a divorce. As Emma stormed out, slamming the door behind her, I couldn't help but smile. But I couldn't help but feel a twisted sense of satisfaction. The house of cards was finally tumbling down. When the day of reckoning arrived, the courtroom was packed. I sat in the front row, watching as my parents and Mark were led in, looking small and pathetic in their orange jumpsuits. The judge, a stern-faced woman with piercing eyes, glared down at them from her bench. How do you plead? She asked. They mumbled their guilty pleas, unable to meet anyone's gaze. I've seen a lot of despicable things in my time, the judge began, her voice dripping with contempt. But this takes the cake. To betray your own flesh and blood for personal gain, it's beyond comprehension. She sentenced them to jail time, not as much as I'd hoped, but enough to make them sweat. Plus, they were ordered to pay back every cent they'd stolen from me. As they were led away, Mark caught my eye. For a second, I thought I saw a flicker of remorse. But then it was gone, replaced by the same old arrogance. Some people never change. With the trial over, I finally had a chance to breathe. The house, which had been a source of so much pain, was now mine. Turns out all those years of rent I'd been paying amounted to a pretty significant stake in the property. But I couldn't stay there, too many bad memories. So I decided to sell it and use the money to start fresh. A few weeks later, I was unpacking boxes in my new apartment. It wasn't much, but it was mine. No strings attached, no manipulative family members lurking around every corner. To new beginnings, Alex said, raising a beer bottle. And to karma, Lisa added with a grin. I clinked my bottle against theirs, a smile spreading across my face. To freedom. As we laughed and joked, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Pure, unadulterated happiness. Sure, my family was behind bars, and I had to rebuild my life from scratch. But standing there, surrounded by true friends and free from the weight of lies and manipulation, I knew I'd made the right choice. Life's funny like that. Sometimes you've got to lose everything to gain something even better. And me? I gained myself back, and that's worth more than any house or family fortune. And that's where Sarah's story ends, folks. Now, I've got a question for you that might spark some debate. Do you think Sarah was justified in exposing her family's actions publicly, or should she have handled it more privately? What would you have done in her shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear your take on this. If you enjoyed this wild ride, why not hit that like button? And hey, if you want more stories like this, consider subscribing to the channel.